Croeso, welcome back everyone to this our seventh session of the project Pererin is oilithriach me, I am a pilgrim. Um, this this is a series of seminars that we've been running um, since last September, which is part of the Ancient Connections project, which is connecting Wexford and Pembrokeshire, and through a number of different schemes of work. But one of the most important parts of the project is a new pilgrimage route that is connecting St David's in Pembrokeshire with Ferns in Wexford. And this project, Pererin which is being run by myself and Span Arts in Pembrokeshire, is exploring. I've forgotten how I introduced the project, but yeah, it's exploring the idea of pilgrimage, and also trying to connect with the Welsh and Irish diaspora. And the way in which we've been doing this is exploring, in the first instance, a Welsh hymn that was written in the 18th century called Pererin by the hymn writer William Williams. And we've been inviting people around the world to sing this hymn or any song that has the power to call you back home, and to pin those recordings to an online map. So that has been one strand of the project, but we've also been hosting these seminars with different speakers who have particular expertise around the themes of the diaspora, song, language, belonging and home. And this is our seventh seminar, and the last in our particular series. And in this seminar, we have invited our co-facilitators in Wexford, Rachel Uí Fhaoláin and John Ó'Faoláin, to present about their work in Wexford and beyond, in terms of song, story and folklore. So I know that John and Rachel will be known to quite a few of you on the call, but I will just say a bit more about them. So Rachel is a traditional singer, researcher, song and folklore collector and educator with extensive experience of working with all ages. Originally from Dublin, she moved to the southeast of Ireland, to just outside Carn an Bua on the South Wicklow North Wexford border, in 2001 with her husband John and their two children, and Killane. Rachel's work is very intergenerational in focus, researching and collecting for the older generation, but also working a lot in schools, and working on projects such as the Nursing Home Project, but also working with the North Wexford Traditional Singing Circle, and she has a practice that she calls Ceol Mo Chroí. John is a filmmaker and works with Rachel on many of different projects, but he also produces the Traditional Archive channel, which is an audiovisual archive of traditions, customs and beliefs collected and recording in the everyday. So we're really pleased to be working with John and Rachel, and looking forward tonight to hear more about their practice, and also how we'll be continuing with this project in this new year of 2023. So I will now hand over to John and Rachel, and yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Rowan.
Thanks,
Thanks for
Rowan.
that lovely introduction. You made us sound great. Thanks for that. Yeah, we're very excited and delighted to be here this evening, and thank you all for coming along. What we're going to do is we have a little PowerPoint, and we're going to take you on a journey really through our work.
Yep.
As Rowan said, John and I work together on a lot of projects through traditional song, folklore collecting, and it's all intergenerational, and we work a lot with children and adults on different projects. So we're going to give you a flavour of it. But what I would say as we do go on this little journey through the PowerPoint, at any point that anybody wants to ask a question, or if there's a connection that comes up between ourselves and yourself in Wales or in Wexford. I know there's a good few people here from Wexford that would have a lot of knowledge in song or anywhere around the world. Pop the message into the chat so that we have it at the end for questions and answers, and I hope we will open up a lot of conversations around the connections between both Wexford and Wales, and indeed the people living in different parts of the world and beyond. So yeah, we're going to start. I'm going to screen share here the start of our PowerPoint. Okay. All right, so it's a journey, as I said, through traditional song, stories, language and folklore and film. My name is Rachel Élan, for anyone that doesn't know me, and this
John Ó'Faoláin.
John Ó'Faoláin. Okay, so start with these two mugshots. I'm sure you can probably guess who they are. There's John on the left and myself on the right, both in the same school in Dublin, in St. Bridget's, and I suppose the seanchaill that I put there is Tarraingíonn scéal eile. So, you know, one story leads to the next is what it means. Translates from Irish into English, and that's what we're hoping tonight, that one story, you know, we may say something and that will spark something in you guys here, because that's what it's all about tonight. It's about both of the diasporas interacting and finding those connections. So
you'll also see that from the photographs we were the height of fashion because we had the same haircuts, so that was obviously the
mammies did those haircuts, I'm sure. Yeah, so that they're quite some pictures. So yeah, this is just a picture that I grabbed of myself and my children. I just wanted to introduce them, Era and Cullen. They're on the call here this evening. You'll hear from them later. And that's down in Tullis, down on Owlert Hill. It's a beautiful monument where we would record there. And I know lots of traditional singers here on the call would also have recorded down there. Beautiful acoustics, and it's just a wonderful place. The Owlert Hill Committee, Brian O'Cleric is here. It's a wonderful place, and a very historic in terms of 1798.
That picture was taken back in 2018. We were making a short documentary, and Era was performing a small part in it where she was singing a song. So that's why we were just there, and when we finished the film, we just took some time and did some singing and recording. So I might, a number of years ago.
Yeah, I might share one of those recordings. And this is a song, "The Wind That Shakes the Barley," and it's a song really about the 1790 rebellion, and it kind of harps back to that. The rebels would have carried, you know, oats of barley in their pockets as provisions during the march. So this is just a little piece, and I hope it transfers across Zoom okay.
Shakes the barley, then blood for blood, without remorse, we've came to Dowler's Hollow, and laid my true love's clay cold corpse, where I full soon must follow. And o'er her grave I wander near, noon, night, and morning early, with an aching heart, whence ere I the wind that shakes the barley
Okay. So that song is really, I suppose, in terms of us tonight exploring identity and what it is that, you know, we look towards. I suppose myself, I look towards songs as a way of identifying with the place and connecting with the place. And I suppose, John, in terms of your film work, you would record that and document it. So I suppose in introductions, Rowan gave us a lovely introduction there. Thank you, Rowan. But I was thinking of something that I might read out that would kind of give, as I mentioned, that with the Shanukal, that, you know, every story leads to another story. And I just wanted to share a little piece I found that I like to sing as well. When I like to sing, as you know, and then I also like to write. So I found this little piece that I'd written during a particular project I was doing, and it just kind of tells our story a little bit about John and I as an intro into this presentation. So John and I moved down from Dublin to an old cottage just outside Carnan Vua on the South Wicklow North Wexford border in 2001. When my parents visited, my late father flourished in the traditional fabric of the house, the open fire, vision of hanging pots, what was left of the interior whitewashed walls, the old plates and trough we found in the adjoining field, the beautiful walks. It all spoke to us. We spoke with the locals about who lived in the house before us with great interest. It was important. It was part of us now. My mammy wasn't taken with the house at all, or the area, compared to John's parents, who were used to rural life. Mammy hated the dark outside, the lack of streetlights, and the remoteness was just too much for a true dub, although we filled the cottage with songs and stories. During this time, we've been fortunate enough to have two beautiful children, Éire agus Cullen. They are growing up in an environment very similar to mine, full of song, music, stories and traditions. I can tell them all about our Dublin traditions, sing our Dublin songs, recall our street games with such fondness. But I've had to work extra hard to paint a picture of their place. But we are interested. Through our ongoing work, researching, collecting, sharing and writing new songs in the traditional style, and with the help of the community who have shared so much with us, we are painting a great picture. The best, I hope, is yet to come. Us Whelans, O'Faolains, are right at home here on the South Wicklow North Wexford border. However, in a good way, I suppose I'll always feel like I'm on my summer holidays in the sunny southeast. The fair city is never far away. As a runner-in, a local term that I am quite fond of, I feel very fortunate as I continue on this journey. The Dublin to Wexford route is a good service. So I suppose when I found that, I wanted to share it in terms of our journey, really, from not only our journey that we're going to share with you tonight through song and music and folklore, but our own personal journey in terms of coming from a different place to live now and make our home here. As I said, outside Carnew on the South Wicklow North Wexford border, and our life is, you know, a lot of our children are in school. We worked in Wexford, so everything, we had to kind of work extra hard, as I said, to learn that. So that's really just an introduction, and we're going to explore that more, that sense of identity within that, you know, journey from one place to the next. Just a little brief background about what we do, John and I. We both are involved with the Heritage Council and in Heritage in Schools projects. We have worked with primary schools. This is just a picture of me in a school working with children, and then the bottom picture is me working on Zoom. I suppose through COVID, the Heritage in Schools kind of asked a certain amount of the heritage experts to come on board to deliver and create a virtual programme, and I was one of those heritage experts, and I worked through lockdown on traditional songs, mainly creating new songs in the traditional style with children. We'll talk some more about that as we go along. So that's still available. The Zoom is still working, and in school both are an option. This is just the In Touch magazine is a magazine that goes into all the primary schools and for the teachers, and I was asked to submit a piece for publication in their May edition, creating new songs in the traditional style with children, and that's the article there. I was delighted to be able to write a piece about the work. And they're just in the little corner. These are little songbooks that I work with the children in schools in terms of creating their own songs, but also using the songbook as a kind of a way of archiving their song, teaching them in a quite simple way of putting their songs and their lyrics into the songbook, dating them, and they're kept safe in a school community, and the songs are shared around the school, and of course around the wider school community at home and that. This is, I suppose this is where John, during our work, do you want to talk about what happened there?
Well, I suppose during the lockdown, when Heritage School asked Rachel would she come on board and be one of the specialists who would present the online work, we had to sit down and sort of come up with an idea, and Rachel had this fantastic idea. I'll let her tell her about the song itself, but we had to come down and we had to put together a presentation. It was a workshop essentially, so we had to find in our music room, we had to set up and record. It was a 15-minute piece that could be sent to the schools, and they would watch that, and that would be part of Rachel's work. But what we did was we recorded it, and I'll let Rachel tell you about what she recorded about.
Yeah, I suppose we had to do, as John said, record workshops, tutorials that were going to be sent into a school environment. So that was done through film, and the classrooms would get the link to watch the film, and then a follow-up. They would work on the resources that I would send, and then the follow-up I would zoom into their classroom and we would work on creating a new song. I suppose this song, "Ode to the Magpie," was one of the songs that we worked on, and this is a song that I wrote back in 2017 about the magpie, and it's actually a lovely connection between Wales and Wexford, which I won't go into now because it's something that I may cover when I come over to Wales in March. So that's that. What I might do is, this is just a gorgeous little recording of children who wrote their own song. I had worked with them, this is part of the Heritage in Schools programme. I'd worked with them in terms of creating their own song in the traditional style. And it was that, getting them to come up with ideas, and they're telling me here in this clip how this is kind of teaching and showing you the process of what I've just explained, the video going to the school, the tutorial going into the school, and then the follow-up on Zoom. So I'll just play this and hopefully it comes across okay on Zoom.
Díomh, Cúsatáisih, is Michelle Rachel, and I'm going to chat with you about writing your own songs in the traditional style.
So when you guys were setting yourself the task of coming up with a song, how did you come up with the idea, the story, the scale around your song? How did you manage that?
First we brainstormed ideas for the song, and then we decided that we should write a song on topics that we've learned about or heard about before.
Great.
We picked a topic about Funky the Dolphin. We love him so much and we all know him really well, but sadly he's gone missing now and we want to get him back, so that's why we chose the title. So the air we chose is Begin Achmora.
Okay.
And we chose 3 traditional airs that we were familiar with. Oroshel Bahawaya, Book ar-lein, and Begin Achmora.
Okay.
So then we had a vote, and Begin Achmora got the most votes.
Okay.
So we decided to go with Begin Achmora.
Where, oh, where is Funky gone? Call out to come hear our song. Where, oh, where is Funky gone? In a Monday, how will she?
Where, oh, where is Funky gone? Call will to come hear our song. Where, oh, where is Funky gone? And on a day call will she.
So again, that's, that was their song, the children's song. They're extremely proud of it, absolutely so proud of creating that new song in the traditional style and the process that they went through. And again, picking the topic and it's their song. It's bringing it back to them and getting them, I suppose, used to the whole idea of singing and creating a song themselves.
Yeah.
So this is, I'll let you take over here. This is...
So yeah, like as Rachel said, like a lot of our work, we work together on a lot of projects, and this was another project that we did with the Heritage in Schools and the Heritage Council, and it was working with young traveller boys from around Wexford. So the idea was that we would we contacted some of the organisations that work with them, and we met with the different groups, and the idea was to sort of record their heritage, you know, to talk to them about their heritage and get them to share with us all about their heritage, their songs, their language. But we wanted also to do some workshops with them. So we did workshops in relation to their song, and also about filming and about archiving. So they would have the ability to be able to archive their own stories and be able to share those stories with their own community going forward. And we ended up, the idea then was to create a short film piece. And the lads that were involved were fantastic. They were so enthusiastic about it. It was one of my favourite projects that I worked with. Really enjoyed it.
I suppose the whole idea of that project was to, you know, to engage with the traveller culture, and for us to learn as well, for them to kind of share in a community context what it was, that is what they felt was important to the travelling community, and to share it so that, you know, like myself and John, not from the travelling community, and the wider community in Wexford would, you know, understand, I suppose, what it was, their customs, their traditions, and I suppose that was, you know, bridging that gap as well between the two communities, which was lovely. So
the picture there is of just, you know, meeting the lads down and where they were with the horses, and then that's just where we were doing the picture on the right is where we were doing the screening down in a Scorty library, which was really
lovely. Yeah, lovely to screen it. The lads were terribly embarrassed when they saw themselves up on screen, but
actually one of them said, "Have you got a bin? I want to put myself in it." Like, it was just when they seen themselves on the big screen,
yeah,
you know,
they didn't like it. So I might just share this little piece. Where am I going to? 516. This is a little piece. This is Charlie. So I'm just going to, just bear with me as I bring it up to where we're. So we'll go from here. Yeah. Okay. And I love your name, Charlie.
Thanks very much. What's your name?
My name's Rachel. Are you called after anybody in your family?
My mummy's brother, his name is Charlie, and I'm called after him.
And is that's quite common in the travelling community, isn't it? That you would pass on the names from one generation to the next?
Yes.
Yes. And is there more of your brothers or sisters called after other members of the family?
No, not really. Cause my brother's called after what, like I was saying, my older from Gory, Paddy.
Paddy.
And his name is Paddy.
Okay.
And my sister's called after Margaret, and that's Paddy's wife.
Okay.
So
that's lovely how the names are passed on, isn't it?
yeah, lovely.
I love that. And I love the will you tell me again about the medal that's around your neck?
It's holy medal. Keeps you safe. You keep that safe, that you get safe.
Okay, so you keep that safe.
Yep.
It will keep you safe.
Yep.
And where did you get it from?
A priest.
A priest.
A very holy priest.
A very holy priest. And is that medal very important to your family?
Not really.
Who reminded you to put that on you this morning?
Well, it's always on me.
It's always on you.
Yeah, I have it on me last week for that.
Okay. So that keeps you safe.
Mm.
And who's on the medal?
Jesus
Jesus.
Christ.
I think she's really loving that. So I think, you know, Charlie is brilliant on camera, and he was just so good sharing his customs and traditions. And I suppose it was that for me, and I think for you, it was that exploring identity with them. I mean, he spoke about the names within his families. I mean, you know, that happens in our own tradition as well, that names, not as much, I suppose, in my family, it's kind of stopped, but you know, back from my dad back, and the name Patrick and the name John and would have featured a lot in generations gone before. So there's lots of similarities that we were able to chat about, and that identity with his the medal, that really, you know, I was really interested in that. It was a very powerful piece that he shared with us.
And they were so relaxed and at ease. They weren't at all, you know, phased by a lot of people. When you come with the camera, they get a little bit shy. They were just so relaxed and so at ease at talking, which was great.
Yeah, which was lovely. It was lovely. It was a really, really, really good project. And as I say, anything that we're sharing here, they're all available on the YouTube channel. And feel free to contact us, and we can send you on links if you want to watch the full pieces. We just don't have time tonight to share the whole pieces, but they're much longer. But yeah, we're happy to send on links for you to look at it. So I'm just going to fly through some other work that I've done. I was lucky to get a library residency up in Dublin, which was great, because I got to work with children this was through the lockdown, through the libraries. And this map on the left hand side, I suppose, it's showing we were creating songs in the traditional style, and this is an old map of Cabra that I shared with the children. On Cabrac is Cabra in Irish. And we were, you know, discussing the old map and how it had changed. And, you know, the children were really engaged in writing a story about their place, because they identified with what I was trying to get across to them, that, you know, your place, you know, what is it that connects you to that place? And, you know, we were trying to, you know, reinforce that in terms of songs. So they wrote a wonderful song about Cabra, lots of wonderful songs, actually. I have so many songs from Cabra, and it was nice because my parents, my mum and dad, are originally from Cabra, so it was nice for me to take that journey back there and have that connection. This is on this side we have the book festival in Meath. I was up in the libraries again, creating new songs in the traditional style and working through other just traditional songs too that would be suitable for children. And then they're just pictures of the children. On the bottom they're holding up songbooks that they were working on as well, and little songs that they had started to write. So that's that. I'm going to move on, I suppose, to a traditional song project that we did, and it was intergenerational, because all of our work, we feel that's important, that we bring the younger generation into it. So this was a song on PJ McAll, and we called it a musical supper. And I suppose the musical supper came from the whole idea of PJ McAll. John's going to tell you a bit about PJ, and then we'll share some of the songs that we recorded as part of that.
Yeah, it's just a little bit about PJ McAll and who he was at that. So Patrick Joseph McAll, he was born in 1861. He was born at 25 Patrick Street in Dublin, and he was the son of John McAll. John was born in 1822 and he died in 1902. John was a publican, a grocer, a folklorist, and he was from Clonmore near Hackstown in County Carlow. PJ's mother was Elizabeth May. She was a native of Wexford and was a Newport from Rattangan. And that's where PJ McAll would have spent his summer holidays in Rattangan in County Wexford, with his mother's family mostly. McAll's eventually, they bought a cottage near that village, where they spent many summers with the local musicians, ballad singers, dancers and storytellers. We all know PJ is responsible for writing many of the popular Wexford ballads. He collected a lot of old airs, songs, dance tunes, and he also enjoyed recording the Rattangan mummers. PJ's work it's huge, and we're all the better for it. We wanted to celebrate his life and his huge contribution to traditional music and song, and to celebrate his 100-year anniversary, we decided to create this project, which we called the PJ McAll and Musical Supper. We're really thankful to everybody got involved. So many people got involved, and I think the idea of the Musical Supper came from the idea that we're PJ's holiday home when he was down in Rattangan. So many people would come to his house and record music, and it was referred to as a musical supper, and that's kind of where that name came from. Yeah,
so we'll carry on and, you know, share some of the songs. I suppose this is, you know, songs that are very much connected to Wexford. And I suppose when I think back to that project as to why I was so interested in PJ McAll, PJ, as John mentioned, was from the Liberties up in Dublin, and I spent the first 4 years of my life in the Liberties with my mum and dad. And my dad worked on Patrick Street, which is the street that PJ was born in. And then we obviously as a family moved out to the north side of Dublin, and then I suppose with me and John forced, I suppose at the time when the economy wasn't great, we were forced out of our home place, and and we had to look for somewhere else to live. So we were on that journey somewhere else, and that brought us down to the southeast of Ireland, down here outside, as I said, Carnew, and we had our children, and you know, Wexford is a huge part of our life. So that felt like the reason to do it. Yeah. It was, you know, I had found something that I was really interested in, someone that, you know, had a kind of, you know, that journey from Dublin down. He was, you know, he was interested in the music, the vibrant music and song that existed down here. So yeah, so we put out a call for people to get involved, and the first person, I suppose, our first port of call was this man, Eddie MacDonald, out in Clonmore and Carlock in Carlow. It kind of is on the border of Wicklow and Carlow. And Eddie MacDonald is a direct descendant of the McAll clan. And Eddie in his own right is a folklore collector. He's a historian. He has, you know, an archive of material second to none, really. Yeah, he's amazing, and he's a mind of information and so generous with it. And so this is us in Eddie MacDonald's house, his homestead. We went out and we filmed him, and we had discussions about the project, and he was, as I said, very generous with his knowledge.
That's where Eddie was born, so that's Eddie's family home, like it's where he was born.
And as I said, Eddie is so generous with his knowledge. So that's probably we think that's Eddie's first selfie. We're synonymous as a family for selfies. We normally take selfies of ourselves, but that's Eddie MacDonald's selfie. That's in his sitting room. This is down at the site of PJ McCall's holiday cottage. This is a memorial down there, and yeah, so that was part of the project. So what I'm going to do, I think are we sharing a piece from Eddie?
From Eddie, yeah, sure.
Yes,
just play from the beginning here, we'll play.
Okay, just from the beginning we'll play this.
And then we'll play another bit, the second half of it then. We won't play the whole thing.
Well, being a descendant of the McAll clan, my grandmother was a first cousin of PJ McAll, and of course I heard a lot about PJ, and especially his father John, with the parents here and the grandfather, and I grew up with an interest in PJ and his father John. But John wrote a wonderful history of the locality of Clonmore. It was published in Purton's Almanac in 1861, and has been a wonderful source of reference for other historians to refer to when they were referring to Clonmore. So, to me, John McAll was a famous historian, patriot, collector of songs and ballads and folklore. He published several and many different compositions of localised history about Clonmore, the wake in Ballyshan, the castle of Clonmore.
And what is really special about that clip there is, for me and for John and Eddie at the time, he was taking us on a kind of a journey through the homestead of John McAll, PJ McCall's father. So at the beginning there, when you see us walking through the yard, that's the homestead of John McAll, PJ's father, and you can actually feel that connection from Eddie when you're with him. You know, the passion, that sense of pride of place, in just the way he talks and the language that he uses. It was just a very special time for us to be brought on that journey around that homestead So I'm just going
Get
to
down to
skip
8:04,
forward
yeah.
to.
Eddie's a very soft-spoken man, so I know it can probably be hard to hear, like, but he's such a nice man. He's so soft-spoken, so gentle.
We're heading up to PJ McCall's grave in Glasnevin. That's where we are now.
The legend that PJ and John left behind them is priceless, and as time goes on, it'll become more priceless, because somebody will realise the important work that they did do and the time they spent and the research they did. So it's wonderful to for my part anyhow, to have an interest in local history, and you always have the reference, you can always reference back to John McCall's writings and PJ's ballads for your information, which will always be there. So I relish the thought, the privilege of being a descendant from the McAlls. My grandmother was a McAll, so I always had an interest in the McAll heritage.
So you can, sense the pride. He relishes that connection with the family, the McAll clan. So he was the perfect point of contact for us in terms of getting that connection and that information about, and the knowledge that Eddie was so willing to share. So one of the songs that we focused on was a well-known song, I suppose, Kelly the Boy from Killane. It was a song that we decided we were going to, this one we were going to do with children.
Yeah.
So this is me in Gael School, Mohilogue and Gorey, back in 2019 with a group of young children. And we're going through the story of Kelly, the boy from Killane, the place, and these material that I was given by genealogist in the county, and there was some valuable information there for the children on a very simple scale. They did absorb it, and we wanted, I suppose, the children to learn the song and connect it to the place Killane. And then we wanted, as John had mentioned about PJ, that he also collected airs and music, tunes. So we wanted musicians, young children, to play the tune too. So that's what this was about. These are some young musicians out in St. Patrick's Church in Cranford in Gorey, and we recorded them playing Kelly the Boy from Killane. I'm going to show you this piece in full, I think, because it's not long, but it shows that connecting the children to the song, teaching them the song, and that connection. They knew where, this is down at the graveside of Kelly and the boy from Killane, and the musicians as well are included in it. So just to give you a flavour of that.
Godly news do I bring you the fort. Godly news shall you hear, mighty man. For the boys march at dawn from the south to the north, led by Kelly, the boy from Killane.
and it's set by the Slaney's red wave. And poor Wexford stripped naked hung high on a cross, with her heart pierced by traitors and knaves.
So again, that powerful song, and you know, I suppose John Kelly's role within the 1798 rebellion, for anybody that doesn't know about John Kelly. He was a United Irish leader, and he fought in the battle, the 1798 battle, and he was wounded at the Battle of New Ross, and the accounts say that he was brought back to Wexford to recuperate, and he was physically dragged from his bed and hung on Wexford Bridge on the 25th of June. And the accounts go in further, which we didn't obviously share with the children, about the you know, the barbaric nature of proceedings after that in terms of his remains. And it's hard, I suppose, for us to understand that 1798, what happened, that the barbaricness of the battles. And but yeah, this song is I suppose lots of those children would play it on the tin whistle. It would be probably one of those tunes that they'd be introduced to, so we felt it was a nice way of, you know, connecting them into the project. And they, as you see, the little one was delighted in the classroom. She kept looking at the camera. She was delighted with herself. So yeah, I really enjoyed that song. Another song that we really enjoyed, this one. It caused a bit of stress at the time, I suppose. A Wexford fishing song, you're thinking of fishermen and, you know, what the challenges they face weather-wise. It just so happened that we faced those challenges.
We faced those challenges. So we had organised with some of the singers from around Wexford to come and sing this. And we picked a day. I put everything in place. And on the day when we arrived down to Ceol Mo Chroí, it was like the weather was it was worse than today. It was wind, it was howling, lashing rain. And we had planned to film on the quay, and we'd even had plans. We had reached out to somebody who had a boat, and we were hoping to get onto a boat and go out and film if possible. But as I said, we got down there, the wind was atrocious. But I think it was John Bourne, one of the chaps there, you see in the picture on the left of the glasses. He made a quick few phone calls, and we actually got up to the harbour office, which looks out over the quay where all the boats are. And although on the left of the screen where we filmed the lads, it's all very technical, but it was the view out behind of looking out over the quay where all the boats were. And it actually, you know, it just worked out really well. As I said, the plan was to film the guys, but I ended up just capturing some of the atmosphere when I was recording this, and just to give that sense of what, you know, maybe what the fishermen would have faced in terms of being out at sea. But it was a really enjoyable one.
I think we'll play a little piece of Phil Berry, who is, I mean, I suppose you have to mention the Berry family when you're talking about traditional singing in Wexford. And Phil Berry is Paddy Berry's brother, and Phil was singing. I was actually going over the song, looking out of the window, and we captured this piece, and we'll share it with you now, and we'll chat about it. Or is it 8:07?
So it's just the last 2 minutes of this piece, because we just wouldn't have the time to.
Okay. 8:07.
Fill fear round the sail, and more safely guide us. One more tack, and we'll make for the pier. See my Ellen with Margaret, and Stacia beside her. Will I e'er come home safe to my dear? O sweet Queen of Heaven, let meet praise be given to the babe that once sat on thy knee. As we raise high a chorus, his blessing hung o'er us, in a boat full of spoil from the sea.
And I suppose that piece really touches me every time I watch it, because I think it just represents that connection with place so well. I mean, you've got a Wexford man looking out, you know, with lyrics that are, he's literally telling the story through those lyrics as he looks out at the rain and the salty islands. And, you know, it's just that connection with place was, it's possibly one of the favourite songs that we recorded from PJ McAll. I suppose there's so many of them, but that moment stood out for me. And again, if anybody would like to learn those songs, we have them recorded in their full, and the lyrics, we can send them on to you. Just pop an email and we can send the link on to the full piece, and we're only able to show small pieces of it at this stage. Now, we couldn't do PJ McAll without looking at the song Boolavogue. In fact, even when we're talking to people in terms of this project and we mention what song calls you home, the amount of people that are mentioning Boolavogue, it's an anthem of Wexford. You know, it's known not just in Wexford or in Ireland, it's known all over the world. So it was a song we certainly had to include in the project. And what's really special about this was that we were able to rely on Brian O'Cleric there, who's on the call here, a local historian with extensive knowledge, and again willing to come and share that with us, so that it enriched the project as a whole. And then what was really lovely was we were able to get the community of Wexford singers together. Down on Tulloch, again in that lovely monument, a lovely day of chatting and, you know, trying to get this right. But these men are professionals, like they did it in one take. And it's a powerful piece. I'll share a little piece of it, but again, that connection with place, and, you know, that the generosity as well of the singers, I have to say, as you know, as I mentioned, you know, Phil Berry looking out the Wexford man. I'm not a Wexford woman. I've made my home down here, but, you know, I appreciate, you know, when people allow me inside of that, you know, that journey inside of that, to appreciate and understand and learn from that. So, you know, this was for me a very special day. We're going to share a little clip of it, the power of it. Where am I going? 7:25. Okie dokie. And here we are here.
Is totally underrated. It's really still to be, it's been written now by Liam Gall, and it will take time for that to be fully understood, the influence of McAll, because he brought past history into the present, in the cultural life of the people through the songs. And he even brought ancient history of the legends of ancient Ireland into the present. And there was a great Scottish nationalist who even opposed the union of Scotland and England in 1707, who wrote, "Let me write the nation's ballads, and I don't care who makes the laws," pointing to the influence of song in the maintenance of Gaelic culture in Scotland and in Ireland. So, a special place for PJ McAll, and long may his fame remain.
So that was Boolavogue. So we're delighted with that. These are just a few pictures of other people that were involved in the project. Up here on the right hand side, we've got Sen and Lillis, a well-known singer here in Wexford, but originally from Clare. I think he might be on the call. We went down to Glenmalure to do Follow Me Up to Carlow, which would be another well-known song of PJ McCall's. That's Aaron Cullen. They're always involved somewhere along the line with us, coming along, and I really would like to take this opportunity to thank those that have, I suppose they've learned so much and from being on the involved in projects with us, but they wouldn't be able to learn so much without the generosity of the people that have shared their knowledge and their songs and their information with them. So thank you. And then this is us down at the famous, the legend that is Eddie MacDonald, and that's his homestead just outside in Clonmore. This is another song, the Tinware Lass was another song that the ladies here recorded down in Rathangan. We brought them down to Rathangan, met them down there, and we recorded them singing that song, again, a connection with place. This is the ladies, this is lovely, a lovely group of people that would have known each other. There would have been an Aiksha festival down in Rathangan for PJ McCall. And these people would have been heavily involved, and their parents. So this was a lovely kind of get together in a way for them to revisit the past. And I suppose isn't that what the journey of singing is, where they're revisiting the past and bringing it forward. And they really enjoyed being in the project and connecting it all back to place. And this is us outside that day down at Wexford, Wexford or Harbour, Ceol Mo Chroí. On that day when we were filming, but so yeah, storytelling through song, I suppose, is what our traditional songs are all about, isn't it? Really, they tell us all sorts of stories, and I suppose I'm going to fly through this because I'm conscious of time and I don't want to get bogged down in and miss out on some other stuff further on. This is I've spent a lot of my time last year up in UCD at the National Folklore Collection in UCD, and online it's also available. These are the copies back in between 1937 and 1939 in Ireland, the schools collection, for anybody who doesn't know. The Folklore Commission, which it was known at the time, and in conjunction with the Department of Education, embarked on this project, the schools collection, where they worked with primary schools, senior pupils in primary schools, to collect and archive in school copies, in ordinary school copies, stories, songs, recitations, folklore customs, traditions, everything in these copies. I think there was over 18,000 copies collected across the 26 counties, and that's a mammoth task. The green books you see is where they've been transcribed, the children's recordings in their copybooks, which they would have obviously got from parents, grandparents and the wider community, were transcribed into those green books, which are up in the UCD. And if you go on to ducas.ie website, this is what you see. These are the green books. So I use this, I suppose, resource in terms of working with children. If I'm writing songs or working in a different county, and I don't have a song, I don't know what we're going to write about, I go and research in the folklore collection, find something that was collected in a school, possibly the school they're in, if the school is old enough, or a place near them, and bring it back that way. So it's a wonderful resource, ducas.ie. Anybody who doesn't know it, I'd highly recommend dipping in and out of it. It's fantastic. This is me up there depositing my work that I've collected to Dr. Christopher McCarthy, who's the director of the National Folklore Collection in UCD. I suppose as part of both the YPCE, a Young Person Children Education bursary that I received from Arts Council Ireland, and an award previous in terms of researching Dusty Bluebells, a collection up in Dublin in the ITMA. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share this. I was looking for an air to use, an existing air that I could use to write a song with a class that John and I were going to be working with in a school in County Carlow. And I was looking for a lively air, something that would appeal to children and that they would like to use. And we'd have to learn that first, and then we would work off that for our song. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share this. I'll stop screen sharing this. No, I have to click into that link first. I have it here. So I'll just click into that.
Yeah, stop screen sharing and then share that.
And then share this again. So bear with me as I share this. Can you all see that page from the ITMA website? Yes? Okay. So this was a song, Love Will You Marry Me, and it's from the great singing of Paddy Tunney. He's a renowned traditional singer. And I would, really love listening to his work and his songs. He's no longer with us, sadly, but his family and his sons and his daughters all sing, and it's a wonderful traditional singing family. So this was the song, Love Will You Marry Me. I'm just going to play it. This is the air that I was interested in.
Marry me, marry me, marry me, love, will you marry me and take me out to danger? This is the way the teacher stands, this is the way she holds her hands, this is the way she combs her hair, and this is the way she dances. Day-doodle-doodle-dum, diddly-doodle-doodle-dum, da-doodle-doodle-doodle-doodle-dum, da-doodle-doodle-dum, doodle-doodle-dum, da-doodle-doodle-doodle-dum.
So, as you can hear, when I heard that, I said, this is definitely going to appeal to the children. It's a very fun, lively air and a song, and they're definitely going to appeal. It's going to appeal to them. So we took that into the children, and they loved it. And then we talked about creating a new song based on that air, and it was a new song connecting them to place. So that was where the school folklore collection came into play. I went looking in the school folklore collection. These children were in Carlow, as I said. They were in Clonegall, more particular, and I wanted to find something pertaining to their place. And I found this extract, this recording archived in the school collection. There it is on the right-hand side, transcribed from the school copies that I showed you earlier. And it says, "The Cuckoo's Corner is situated on the road to Clonegall. It is believed that the first time the cuckoo visited this part of the country, it was the first place she came to, and she was first heard over at the corner. It is a very sheltered spot, and she used to perch on a bush all night and was always heard very early in the morning, and it is her favourite spot still. In the spot some years ago stood a house. The ruin was there till about the year 1865, but none of it can be seen now. All around the corner there are patches of violets growing." And that was it. That was our song, Cuckoo's Corner. So we decided to write a song called Cuckoo's Corner, and we worked as part of Crinne Ní Nog, which is a National Day of Creativity. John and I worked with the school in the lead up to it. It was kind of for the month before, where we visited the school and we worked on the song and the recording and the whole engaging the children in that school folklore collection, getting them to know where this came from, taking it home to parents and family and grandparents and asking, did anybody hear of Cuckoo's Corner? And what was lovely was, and you'll see in the clip I'm going to share, one of the boys shares with us what he asked his grandmother. So I'm just going to share this piece here.
These are also another bunch of kids that are really enthusiastic about learning how to use cameras and things like that. So you'll see that in the piece. It's about 3 minutes long.
The Cuckoo's Corner. The following account was collected in County Carlow as a part of the school's collection. The school's collection was a part of the National Folklore Collection, which was undertaken throughout Ireland between the years 1937 and 1939. The Cuckoo's Corner is situated on the road to Clonegall. It is believed that the first time the cuckoo visited this part of the country, it was the first place she came to, and she was the first heard over at the corner. It is a very sheltered spot, and she used to perch on a bush all night, and was heard very early in the morning, and it is still her favourite spot. In the spot, some years ago, stood a house. The ruin was there till about the year 1865, but none of it can be seen now. All around the corner, there are patches of violets growing. Here is our new song, Cuckoo's Corner.
Oh, the cuckoo builds no nest at all, no nest at all, no nest at all. The cuckoo builds no nest at all. But through the wood she strays, until she finds what's snug and warm, until she finds what's snug and warm, until she finds what's comes in April. She sings her song in May. In leafy June she changes her tune, she changes her tune. In leafy June, in leafy June she changes her tune. In July she flies away. Die-deedle cuckoo, diddly-idle cuckoo, do-raddle-doodle cuckoo, uncoo of the cuckoo. Die-deedle cuckoo, diddly-idle cuckoo, do-raddle-doodle cuckoo, uncoo of the cuckoo.
Noah, you were telling me that you were chatting to your dad
Yeah.
about Cuckoo's Corner. What did he tell you?
He told me that he remembered it, and his mum used to say that's
His,
what it
his mum used to call Cuckoo's Corner, so he remembers that place. So it's extra special that we have our song about Cuckoo's Corner, isn't it? Good man.
So there's the power of them writing that song and connecting with it. I've been in contact with the teacher, and you know that song has been sung in the school because they have the story, the background behind it. They have the actual lyrics that we used was a rhyme that I found that was used in their area, you know, about the cuckoo, that folklore around the cuckoo, when she comes, when she leaves. So they're very proud of that, and they're standing there proud and delighted with the song, and delighted that they recorded it, and delighted
did
that
most of the filming as well, I guess.
so it was a really great opportunity for them to connect with that whole writing a song about place and exploring their identity. As part of the project as well, we brought them out to the Courthouse Arts Centre to perform it, and it was a great opportunity for them to perform their new song on in an art centre, which was great. This is just, I'm just going to fly through all this so that we can get to more, get through the PowerPoint. Speaking of the Courthouse Arts Centre, we through Zoom kept singing, as you know, was very affected. So I curated the courthouse singing sessions for the courthouse, and we would invite special guests. As you can see from the flyers, we had Paddy Berry from Wexford, and was a great opportunity for Wexford singers to come along, but the wider community of singers are all throughout Ireland and indeed further afield to learn songs from Paddy and you know, pick up a song from Wexford. And then we had the renowned traditional singer for Rita Gallagher from Donegal, and she was a special guest too, again in attracting a lot of people from her own place, but also people further afield, which we would have huge respect and would pick up songs and learn from the great singing of Rita Gallagher. This was another project, The Heart of Tinnahealy. It was a project that was centred around celebrating community through song and place. And that was a wonderful community event where we reached out to people in the community, poets, singers, and that was shared. And all of these have been archived through recording on Zoom, which is great because for future generations we have all those songs and all those stories that people generously shared. This was another event, I suppose, in Christmas of 21. When we were all in lockdown and we couldn't go to see each other for Christmas, and grandparents weren't able to see grandchildren, and people over abroad didn't get home for Christmas. And this was an event we did on Zoom where people could come together and tell their story of Christmas through song stories, and it was really lovely. Again, they're all available on YouTube if you wanted to have a look at them and pick up any songs or stories and that connection to place. The nursing home project, I'll just fly through it because we've so much to get through. This, as I said, is Chris Thor. I was very fortunate to be asked by Galway County Council at the start of the lockdown, would I work with older people. I had worked with them on several projects, but they were particularly interested in engaging with nursing home residents. And I come from a pharmacy background. I've worked mainly in my earlier I suppose up to about 15 years ago, I worked in hospital Wexford General and in retail pharmacy, community pharmacy. So I suppose those skill sets were of particular value to me working with nursing home residents. And so I'm delighted and privileged really to be working with nursing home residents in Ireland and collecting oral history, folklore, their stories, songs. And that's, as I said, deposited any of the work. It's funny, people say to me, why do we do it? Why do we archive them all on DVDs? And the reason we do it is because in the nursing home community, the communal area where they all come to in the evening, they watch DVDs. So they love to watch this and learn from other, they're being connected with other nursing homes throughout the country as well, in terms of, you know, if I've recorded someone else, so they get to see other people born in their same era, same, you know, we're talking about people born from 26, of people 26, 1926, 1927, 1933. So they're important years, I suppose, to document. This one, I'm particularly proud the residents and I are of this past year, 22. Thanks to Creative Ireland, we were one of the 16 projects chosen for to be supported to continue the work. And we have developed, the residents and I, intergenerational educational programmes through the libraries in Galway. And what that means really is that the material that we are collecting, the nursing home residents and I are collecting, is being fed right back into the schools in their communities through the libraries. So songs, stories, folklore, I'm able to deliver traditional song and folklore programmes with the nursing home residents, and that's been a huge development in the project, which we hope to continue into 2023. New Year, I'm mentioning this because I know Rowan has told me that tomorrow some of it's the Guan Valley in near Fishguard celebrate the New Year because they use the Julian calendar as opposed to the Gregorian. So I just wanted to share this piece about the first footer as a conversation opener, really, for when we get to chat after we're finished talking here. So I'll just share this of Patricia telling us about the first footer, New Year custom. New Year's Eve, was there anything particular that was done on New Year's Eve?
Yeah, well, I never spent a New Year's Eve in Ireland when I was a child. But in England, the first person to step over the thresh door would be a dark-haired man.
Okay.
And they used to call him the first footer. And it usually would be a neighbour that did it to every house. He'd be the dark-haired man, and he'd bring some salt with him, coal. And I don't know if it was a bit of bread. There was a third item, and I'm not too sure about that. But I definitely remember the salt and the coal.
Okay.
And you would leave it out on the doorstep before 12 o'clock.
Okay.
And he'd come then at it might be 3 o'clock before he got to your house.
Okay.
You know, by the time he'd done every house and had a drink and a chat, and you'd be there waiting for him to come. And he'd come anyway, and he'd knock, and then he'd bring in the coal and the salt and whatever the third thing was. And he'd have a drink with the family, and they'd have a bit of a chat, and then...
So that's the first footer, and I suppose we can chat some more about that. I'd be really interested in hearing about the customs and traditions around New Year's Eve over in Wales. So we're going to skip on here because I'm conscious of time, and I don't want... this is a custom that became new to me through my research in the folklore collection, burning 12 candles on Little Christmas Eve. And I was delighted, I suppose, to be able to reinforce that through a recording with the nursing home project. And I suppose what basically happens is, you know, 12 candles are burnt on Christmas, on the eve of Little Christmas, which is the feast of the Epiphany. And a candle is assigned to a person. It's quite a dark custom, really. And if your candle burns out first, you're the first to die. You know, it's kind of connected to those divination games that we would play at Halloween. So I'm just going to play a little bit of this wonderful singing of Emily Slattery, who's in the project. I read an interesting account about burning 12 candles on the eve of Little Christmas. It's quite a dark story, though, that if, you know, so family will burn 12 candles, everybody gets a candle and they burn it. But if your candle burns out the first, you're going to die. I thought that was a very dark thing. I haven't done that with my children. Do you remember that, May?
I do well.
Do you? Could you tell me about it?
Well, for 12th night, we had 12 candles.
Okay.
Now there were a small white candle, the little small white. Yeah. but everyone had picked their candle. That's my one.
Okay.
Watching the candle will be going down and down.
Okay.
Tap on it could go quicker. Go quicker.
Okay.
But whoever, next thing the candle was gone out, that person was going to die first. Never to happen. And
And you did that in your house on the eve of Little Christmas every year?
yeah,
As a child, May, did you do it? Was it as a child?
I did.
Yeah, okay, okay.
I remember when they were going shopping before them. Don't forget the 12 candles.
Okay.
That was the one.
So I think that's very powerful. As a child, she would have done it, you know, and you know, I just, superstition wouldn't allow me to do it in my house now with children, you know, I just couldn't do it. But yeah, so that's really great to have the nursing home project. And as I said, any of those clips that anybody would like to see, or any of the DVDs, I have them, and you're more than welcome to them. And that's what it's all about, sharing that knowledge. The Emigrant Irish, I just wanted to touch on this a bit. I know we touched on it with Helen Phelan. I spoke to her about this on the last call, and I introduced one of the residents, Paddy Lally, who had spoke to me about it. He told me he never sang or played music, but he was very in tune with the songs and music and when it happened. And it was particularly connected to a time of emigration when people were leaving his place. There was a barn dance, and it was in his barn, and he recalls that. So he connects back to song and music, to that journey, I suppose. And he talks about, we were on an event, we had an event together on Culture Night, and someone sang a particular song, The Rocks of Bawn, and I recall seeing him on the little box on Zoom and saying, oh my, he's definitely after reacting to that song. And I spoke later to him, and he mentioned that his father sang that song, and his father sang it at many a house gathering, but he remembered the song being sung when his siblings were emigrating, leaving Ireland, and he sang it at those barn dances. And the power of that for Paddy was that he'd never sung before, but he wanted to invest time into learning that song because it brought him back to that time in his life, that place, that, you know, those memories. And we worked, myself and Paddy worked on that song, and Paddy sings The Rocks of Bawn and listens to it all the time on YouTube. I get messages from him the whole time. So I just wanted to read this, The Emigrant by Evan Boland, as a lead into what I'm going to share with you next. So like oil lamps, we put them out the back of our houses, of our minds. We had lights better then, newer then. And then a time came, this time, and now we need them. Their dread makeshift example. They would have thrived on our necessities. What they survived, we could not even live. By their lights, now it is time to imagine how they stood there, what they stood with, that their possessions may become our power. Cardboard, iron, their hardships parcelled in them. Patience, fortitude, long suffering in the bruise-coloured dusk of the new world. And all the old songs, and nothing to lose. So I want to share this little piece. I haven't shared it before, actually. It's from the Nursing Home Project, and it's Paddy. This is Paddy Lally. Paddy's a legend, and a very dear friend.
Well, I tell you about the Pererin. My brother went a long way back. He went out to Boston, and they had a dance for him in the Pererin that time, that they, after telling you as well. They had a great dance that time. And he never came home until about 6 years ago.
Really?
He came home himself and the wife and a kid or two. But we went into the Pererin anyway, the Pererin that we're after talking about. We went in the middle of the day,
And he looked up at the roof. It was galvanized, and it was galvanized that time. And he said, when had you to put on the galvanized in it? Why, says I to him. Says I, did you ever see that galvanized before? I didn't, he said. Well, that's the same roof, says I, that's on it, as you're looking at now. That's the same roof that was on it when the dance was here in the barn. Oh, I forget what year was it at all. And he started looking at it.
It must have been so difficult for your family, your parents, for your two brothers headed off to America?
They went to America. They went to America. One went 1 year and the other went the year after.
Was that because there was no work?
Oh, sure, there was no work.
Yeah.
It was very hard to live. No work. There might be bits of jobs, all right, but no work. There wouldn't be much good at small jobbings. You know, no. Maybe repairing a road or a by road or things like that. Digging drains and making drains in the bogs or things like that. You know, the people had to go. Sure, the people had to go.
So the people had to go. I think that's really powerful. And you'll hear Paddy mention, I'm going to go and languages narrative. You'll hear Paddy mention jobbings as a gorgeous word, jobbings. You put it's anglicised from the Irish, the I for the N on the end of the word, from the Irish language makes it's little jobs, you know, jobbings. And languages narrative is something that, you know, I use in my work with the children with writing songs for, in languages tells a story. And just to highlight it, this here, Cabra Gajo, this came from a child in a classroom in Dublin who came from Cabra. We were illustrating, we were writing a song about Cabra, and I asked them to draw a drawing for the songbook that we were doing. And they said, this is what they did, Cabra Gajo, Cabra forever. The power in that from a young child connecting that back to their place, you know, it is just so powerful. So here on this side we have Port na Fadóige. For anybody who knows this area in Galway, you know, that's the sign down to Gurteen Beach. But I much prefer the Irish language of it. Port na Fadóige, it's much more poetic and tells us a little bit more. Port na Fadóige means it's the port of the grey plover, which is a bird. So, you know, it's telling you that when you go down there, you may see this bird. And I just think that's a huge interest in that. And I would love to discuss that with you guys in Wales as well and further afield in terms of that, your language and place names and that. This, I'm just going to rush through this because I want to get to songs as well. We work in that arena in terms of collecting words that would be very much alive in the English language, Irish words that would be used, and people have them, they don't realise they have them. And we were commissioned by the Department of Culture, Heritage and Gaeltacht to create online programmes for children, presented by children. There are 2 children, Aaron Cullen there on Mount Leinster, just across the way we can see Mount Leinster from our cottage. And yeah, so there was words collected. I suppose this is the first programme. I don't know whether we'll have time to show it.
Play a minute or so.
I'll just play a minute of it. I think of give you a flavour of the words, I suppose. But again, we can talk about that another time.
Yeah.
Díomh gach duine agus fáilte chuig gob. Is mise éire agus is mise Cullen. Tá méid dul ar thuras beag timpeall na tíre le chéile. Beag sprí a gcuin agus feall amach with galore. I rihan chlór beimid ag ráid focail Gaeilge a tá mí tar éis a bhailiú a tá fós beo sa teanga béarla.
So that just gives you a flavour of what it was done in Irish with subtitles, and there was different words like prashkeen, which is a rough apron that people would use in Wexford and in Carlow, and you know we've collected it from different people. That word prashkeen was collected by Aaron Cullen from their teacher in school, Fionn Ó Fhaoláin. So that just gives you an idea of the languages narrative. It's a big part of our work. But I want to really get on to this Tinnaberna Fisherman song. It's a song that has a connection with Wales. I'm not sure if the Welsh diaspora are aware of it or know of it or have heard of it, but I just wanted to share a piece as a way of opening up a conversation and probably to develop it a bit further as we go through the project. This is the Songs of the Wexford Coast. I have the book here. It was a collection by Father Ranson back in 1948, and this song features in it. That's us recording, well, John and Cullen recording with John Ó'Faoláin, who's a local singer who sings that song and has, so generously shared the song with us. And I just want to read the bit from the book, the Songs of Wexford Coast, that will give a little bit of context in terms of the Wexford and the Welsh connection. So the Tinnaberna ballad, the Tinnaberna Fisherman ballad, which is incomplete, I took down from Watt Murphy, Tinnaberna Kilmuckridge in August 1942. The air was taken down by Kathleen G. Flood from the singing of Reverend Father Cullen OSA of New Ross. The song recalls the tragedy that took place when 7 fishing boats from Tinnaberna were blown across the channel one night in November 1815. 6 of the boats with their crews were lost on the Welsh coast in the darkness of the morning. The crew of the 7th boat, belonging to John Walsh of Walshfield, trailed their nets as a sea anchor and made a safe landing in daylight the following day. There were several ballads made about the loss of Tinnaberna Fisherman. I took the following lines from Hark Kirwan. And there's other songs it's mentioned here that were written about this sea tragedy, and that some of the lines are, on the dark rocks of Wales our poor neighbours were lost. And another line from one of those songs was, those tender-hearted Welshmen, we for them will ever pray, that God may grant them pardon against their dying day. So what I'd like to do, I suppose, is share a little piece of John singing a bit of this song. See, maybe people know it.
On the 14th day of November in 1815, we launched our boats and put to sea from Tinnaberna Green. The northwest wind began to blow as night began to fall, and the fishermen, being high to sea, at the mercy of the squall.
So again, that's a song that, I was thinking that, it would be great if the Welsh diaspora knew about it. I'd love to hear about that. We'll have a chat about that. But in terms of what song calls you home, perhaps someone would like to record it over in Wales to pin it to the map. And again, we can make the song accessible through the recording from John and the lyrics, and you can learn the song and learn more about it through John, because we have recorded some great accounts thanks to John for his information. So we have to talk about Paddy Berry before we kind of finish, I suppose, in terms of Wexford ballads. Paddy has collected songs, 3 books he has. His most recent one was back in November 2021 he launched it. And I was discussing with Paddy, he had contacted me and asked, as he had with lots of other singers around, whether they would be interested in working with him on pieces that he had collected. And he sent me this piece on one day and said, as you can see at the bottom of the page, it says, Rachel, have a look at this, see what you can make of it. And it's called My 7 Sweethearts, and I sat down one evening with Eric Cullen and John by the fire. This was collected in the Wexford Independent back in 1845, as you can see from the little footnote. And myself, Eric Cullen, John sat down, looked at it and thought, right, what could we do with it? And straight away we were singing it to an air. I started singing it to an air that the air of a song that I would know from Dublin. So I suppose it brought me back. I remember that moment of Paddy sending that brought me back from here in Wexford to my hometown of Dublin. I thought of a song that I would have sung called The Spanish Ladies, and the air it scanned perfectly for me. The only thing was missing was there was a chorus that was needed, and we didn't have a chorus. As you can see, there's 4 verses, so we needed to write a chorus. So myself, John, Aaron, Cullen, we sat down and we wrote a verse of the song, a chorus to fit in between each verse. So this is Paddy's book, Wexford Ballads. It has 2 CDs on it, 30 tracks. Not every song is on those CDs, and Paddy invited us to sing at his launch. That's us down there with Paddy's attentive ear, listening, and we were honoured to sing at that and to be included on the DVD, the song. So their photographs, John was invited to submit photos for publication about it. Paddy is heavily involved in Cultus, and Tror is a magazine that Cultus publish, and John provided the photos. But I think what I'll do is I might ask Erin Cullen. I'll stop screen sharing for a moment. I think we haven't had a song. I was supposed to sing a song at the emigration part of this, but I might get to it at some point. But Erin Cullen, would you mind singing just the first verse and a chorus of the song that Paddy is in Paddy's book that he sent us to make into a song? Would you mind?
Yeah, that's no problem.
Okay, off you go.
I'm strangely puzzled which to woo. They're all so fair and all so many. Maria's face I think would do, had she the laughing eyes of Nanny. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 sweethearts which to woo. They're all so fair and oh so pretty. That's the puzzle of my ditty.
Thanks a million, Erin Cullen. So that was the beautiful song that was included in the book. Thanks to Paddy for sending on the piece, and we worked on it and added, as I said, a chorus, and we're very honoured that Erin Cullen were the only children involved in the project, and that's down to Paddy for asking us as a family to get involved. I'm just going to talk about, I have a book that's coming out, launched at the end of the month. We've had an incredible amount of singers involved. It's a songbook in terms of newly composed songs, and there was a call out for young singers to get involved. It's an intergenerational book, so we've young singers and older singers. Some of them are here on the call, and these are the children that we recorded on site in a particular school against a mural backdrop. There's a story in that. It's all in the book, and then up in the ITMA, this is Colin Brennan down and Bano, again bringing the song that he wrote, Wexford 1169, back to Bano, and that man up there, that I think Senan is on the call.
Man with the hammer.
The man with the hammer. He had a wonderful. He put a lovely piece in the book in terms of putting an air to an existing piece. There's a lovely story around that too, and it seemed fit. Senan his father was a blacksmith, so it seemed very appropriate to bring him back to Nolan's Forge in Bunclody, and we recorded in there. And then here's John recording Deirdre Tobin and Paul, again down at the gravesite of Sean Etchingham, another famous poet and politician connected to Wexford, and we were down at his gravesite. So again, connecting those songs with place. Did St. Bridget visit Wales? I don't think we're going to have time to talk about that, but we can, maybe in the chat we can. This is just St. Bridget as we're heading towards St. Bridget's Day.
Every year we'd go out locally, collect the rushes, and Rachel would make the crosses. And during lockdown, I went around and left crosses outside of all the neighbours' houses.
And we actually got messages on Facebook from people who wanted them posted, which we did as well.
Yeah, we posted them.
This is Tubber Vrida in a well in Brideswell, Askamore, here in Wexford. We used to get to go to it when we were in lockdown, and we were going to share a lovely poem that Era had written about it, but we won't have time. And this piece, a local lady talking about the well, but maybe we can share them on Facebook with you all. What I want to do is really
I think play this. We'll have time to play this. I think this is a nice little
do we have time?
Yeah, it's only 1 minute and 44 seconds.
Okay,
it's nice. It's nice to do a pilgrimage.
So, as I say, St. Bridget, again in the 30s, there was, in the schools in Ireland, apparently the teachers did a survey, and they asked the children to write essays to ask their parents or grandparents about local folklore. And each of the schools, like say Askamore, Cranford, Carnum, Monaseed, or whatever, they would have all given in these essays, and quite a few of the children mentioned St. Bridget's Well. Now that was handed down, this was in the 30s, and it would have been given to them from their parents, and that's only going back, I suppose, about 100 years, so it's not really going back to Bridget's time. But it's interesting how the folklore was passed on, and one of the children wrote in the essay that there's a holy well in Brideswell, and St. Bridget came there to visit her nuns. Now, again, that's the child's version, you know. So, and the old people always said St. Bridget visited here. So whether she did or not, I don't know, because she had a chariot and horses. So I don't know how she could have got around all the country, but possibly maybe she did. But at any rate, the church and the cemetery and the well were all linked together, and were a place of pilgrimage, and very much in the olden times, very much respected as a place of pilgrimage.
Okay, I'm going to stop screen share. I had intended on singing a song about Nave Breather, but I'll sing it another time. A song that I had wrote for children, but we can sing it another time. I'm conscious that we've kind of, you know, taken on so much time and we haven't got through half of what we wanted to, and that's the nature of the collecting work, and that's thanks to people who allow us to do that and are generous with their time. So, I hope that was okay, Rowan. Apologies if we've gone over a little bit.
No, that's brilliant. Thank you so much for for that. Incredibly rich. Yeah, so much work.
So much, yeah.
So much. Just very much showing the power of song and connecting the generations as well. So that's really comes across in what you're doing. Yeah, I mean, so we do have time for questions. We've got about quarter of an hour. I don't know if anybody would like to has a burning question. I know there was a couple of things in the chat.
I noticed one there about harmonies. I suppose when we're talking about traditional singing, we're talking about unaccompanied singing by yourself, really, in the main. But as you can see with Boolavogue, the anthem, at the end of many singing sessions, it would be quite normal for the boys of Wexford, as I would refer to them, to get up and do that rendition together. I know for our songbook, we have taken another local song, The Streams of Bunclody, and Erin Cullen have worked on harmonies in that, and also an Irish translation. No, it wouldn't be really in the traditional vein of unaccompanied singing harmonies, but I know myself, speaking for myself, I love to sing with my children. I think I get that support from them in terms of singing. I hope that answers that question. Anybody else?
I saw in the chat as well, Moller had sort of asked a question. I don't know if you want to ask it.
Oh, that was my question. About the harmonies.
Okay.
But also to sort of lament the fact that in Wales, I think we could do a lot better in taking the hands-on practical way that you've taken stuff into schools. I think we could really work on here. And definitely, if anyone wants to come and do the Pembrokeshire Coastal Path or the Preseli Hills, there are stop-off points along the way.
Great. I suppose in terms of the St. Bridget there that we mentioned, and the Tinnaberna song, would any of you from Wales be familiar with that song? Would you have known the story around it? Okay, so I'm getting nod and shakings of heads. So that's something, Rowan, I think that we could possibly develop in terms of getting people to sing it in Wales. I think it would be lovely to pass that song on and reinforce that connection. If anybody's up for that challenge.
Yeah, that sounds. I do find that fascinating. Actually, the way, the way the other culture might be represented in a tradition there that we don't actually necessarily know about, but is actually quite common knowledge of something that has happened.
So I think that's something that would be lovely.
Yeah. I also yeah, I'm really struck by the phrase you use, language as narrative, and also you brought up there about the place names and where I guess where languages have been lost or are ebbing away in some ways, how they remain in the landscape.
Yeah.
And how we are able to know more by knowing that language and knowing those words and which words remain as well. I think that's a really important thing that your presentation brings up as well. And I suppose I want to say that as we go, I said that this was the last session in this series, but the project is not yet over. And actually, so now's probably a good time to say that in the next sort of months, we're going to be working with Rachel to create a new song. So I feel like tonight we for us in Wales, we've landed definitely in a different place now. We've perhaps come to the end of that pilgrimage route, and we've very much been in Wexford, and I guess when we go back to the start of the project and the Welsh hymn Pererin, how do we connect those two things? And I think that's what the next bit of our project will kind of attempt to do. So the idea is that we will make a new song, a macaronic song, that will include 3 languages, possibly more, but definitely Welsh, Irish and English, sort of inspired by the journey we've been making, and yeah, our ideas around home and being away from home and what pilgrimage is in that context. So yes, so your presentation as well has been a lovely way to sort of start thinking about that work too. Is there anything else? I was going to say that you showed Eddie MacDonald there at the start of your presentation. You were making that link, his generational link, and that took me back to our very first session where Professor James had talked about William Williams and William Williams's birthplace, and that there was a picture of, I think it's a great grandson or it was a relative, and basically Professor James was saying we don't have a picture of William Williams, but this person is perhaps the nearest likeness, or do we know? So yes, that we know about these figures and they have cultural importance and they come down to us through the centuries, but to have that living link as well really does make it real. And I also it was nice to see Brian talking there as well about give me your ballad writers, not your writers of laws. That's a
fantastic
quote. Maria has her hand up. Would you like to?
Yeah, I'm sorry if this is out of turn because I haven't been able to be present at the others, but it might be a bit controversial as well. But my family's from the west of Ireland, from County Clare, and the rest of my family was originally from South Wales and then went up to the north, and then I sound English, so there's the background to it. But I know from the West Coast songs and the West Coast music, it's qualitatively different to the music that we've heard tonight, and there's a lot of an English tradition affecting the music that you played tonight, I think, and inevitably that's tied up with the politics of the land. And I just thought it was worth mentioning that, and even to the extent of when the young people were playing, they're playing with a snare drum, which is quite military, and that song was presented as quite like a march. And yet in the West Coast, you'd have the bowron or no percussion with it, and it would be quite different. And I did some work up on Tory Island in Donegal with the children up there, and they I've got some lovely recordings of their singing. And they did sing in harmonies. And there was a Seanas festival while I was there, and they did sing in harmonies up there. So the musical traditions do move around the landscape, don't they? Much as they do in Wales as well. So like around Christmas time, there's the Hunting the Rand songs. I don't know if you have them in Wexford, but they're definitely on the west. And then there's in Wales we've the Mary Lloyd, and she was mostly a South Walian tradition, but she's now migrating up here. So there are definitely traditions and songs for this time of year that could link us all up.
I think, you know, I suppose through my work in traditional singing, I suppose I grew up in a house where we sang all the time, and our songs were in English. Yes, they were traditional songs in English. I had a teacher who exposed us to a lot of the old Seanos songs and songs as scéal from her book, Aber Auron here. It's a wonderful book of Irish songs. I think when you mentioned that west of Ireland, I think sometimes that can be a perception. I suppose in terms of Seanos singing, we're very fortunate here in Wexford to have Colin Brennan, who delivers Seanos singing workshops on every Tuesday in his home. And I've attended them with my children from a very young age. And have you seen the song that we pinned to the map, Eleanor Naroon? It's a song, a Seanos song. If you go onto the map and you watch that song, we did a project investigating the origins of Eleanor Naroon and the person with which the song is telling the story of. And Eleanor was the daughter of Sir Morgan Kavanagh from Clonmullen in Wexford. And the song, you know, goes on to tell you in Irish, in the Irish lyrics, you know, "Vi bua kick o malig she na hain on the ground," like that she had her beauty was enough to entice the birds from the trees. And the story goes in folklore that she was enticed by Carúlo Godálaigh, a 17th century poet who's attributed to writing Eleanor Naroon. He was from Pallas and Gorey. And anytime I heard that song sung prior to being in that Seanos workshop with Colin Brennan, I always attributed that song to the west of Ireland, to what you mentioned there. I think there's a huge tradition. I can't speak for the song tradition in Wexford as much as people in the room here this evening. But to say, in terms of the customs around the wren and the rhymes and the mummers and all that sort of stuff, was very much part and parcel of the east coast of Ireland. And I think we need, I suppose, to raise more awareness around that, to bring that into play and bring that into the consciousness of people now and the future generation, that we don't create that fear of actually representing the East Coast in a way that it deserves to be represented. And our family are huge supporters of the Irish language, and will do everything and continue to do everything that we can to promote that. There's a very vibrant Irish speaking community in Wexford, and there's a very vibrant Irish speaking community in Dublin. And you know, I'm very passionate about promoting that and continuing that. Yeah, we have a wonderful Gaeltacht in Waterford, and wonderful singers of the tradition there. So yeah, it's I think it's about perception and it's about awareness. Has anybody else from Wexford, I know, Seamus, have you anything to add to that in terms of song tradition and or Senan, in terms of, you know, the wren and, you know, all those customs that, you know,
well, coming from West Clare.
Yes. Yeah.
By the way, thanks for the fabulous presentation, Rachel and John.
Oh, you're welcome.
Coming from West Clare, and I've been living in Wexford for over 40 years. Yeah, there are slight differences, I suppose, in the tradition, but that's to be expected. There are regional differences in everything, whether you're talking about architecture or whether you're talking about furniture, or whether you're talking about people's accents. And obviously, when you talk about songs and music, it's only natural that there would be variations. But talk about the wren, you know, the wren is every bit as much an Eastern and a Wexford tradition as it is the West Clare, you know. In fact, the song goes, and the king of all birds, since the evil's day he was cutting the furs, up with the kettle and down with the pan, give me a penny to bury the wren. As I was going to kill and all, I met the wren upon the wall. I up with me wattle and knocked him down and followed him into Carrick Town. Carrick Town is a Carrick on shore. So it is, that song is actually southeast of Ireland song.
Yeah. So
to suggest that it's predominantly the domain of the west of Ireland, I think is not exactly accurate. But yeah, but the Wexford songs, naturally enough, they would have a political undertone given the political history, the recent political history in relative terms of Wexford, you know, and obviously Peter McAll was very instrumental in ensuring that first of all those songs were written and that they were carried on in the tradition, you know. But yeah, that's my little tuppence halfpenny word. Fantastic presentation, good Margaret.
Thanks.
Good, Margaret. Anybody else like to contribute to that idea of? I'm always, I suppose, in my work more focused on unearthing the similarities through observing the differences. And that has really worked really well in our work with children, I suppose, and the younger generation, that we raise that awareness that, you know, when you dig deep, we're a country and the connections are far greater between all the different regions and actually outside of country too. The more I research my work, the more I find it in different communities that I've worked with. I've worked with the Syrian communities, I've worked with the Polish communities. I remember being in the library giving a workshop with a recently arrived family from Syria, and I brought rushes and I was showing them how to do Bridget's crosses, St. Bridget's crosses, and one of the mothers there who couldn't speak English, and she told the story through her son that they made baskets out of, you know, the weaving that they did, and you know, straight away there was a connection between weaving and, you know, of course the plants, what we're using is different, the materials are different because we're from two different regions, but similarities are so important, unearthing those similarities and finding those connections.
It's like that phrase, there's so much more that connects us than divides us.
Yes, yeah.
I must agree there with what Senan said as well there about the songs. And the other thing, of course, is that the Irish traditional songs, and, you know, I suppose a lot of the seanos, as well as the traditional songs in English that spread across the Atlantic. If you talk to Dan and Bonnie Milner there in New York, and Michael O'Leary in Massachusetts, you're in, Michael, isn't it? And you know, we've had conversations over the years since all these Zoom started during COVID. I got to know all these people pretty well. And to pick up the songs that they're singing over there that have traveled from this country, and to listen to some of the country and western songs that were recorded in America that actually went from here with people that went to America after the famine. You know, and you go up to the lakes in Newfoundland, and it's nearly like going down to Wexford or going to Waterford, you know. All the names are the same, the language is nearly the same, the accents are nearly the same, you know. So it travels everywhere, and of course there are different accents and nuances and different parts of the songs, but they do travel all over, and as I said, some of them that traveled hundreds of years ago from here across the Atlantic and have come back as songs in a different genre, if you like, but you listen to the words and they're the actual songs that went away, and sometimes they're variations of the same airs as well.
I know we're rushing out of time, but Claire has her hand up there. She wants to.
Hi, Claire.
I'm just so many resonances with lots of what you said. It's been a wonderful presentation. I'm really interested because I didn't know either of my grandmothers, and one was from Monaghan, and she had, she was really friendly with Sarah Macom.
Okay.
So she used to sing with her, and you know, my eldest brother remembers that. And you know, there's a bit of a tradition there and a lineage. But all of that family who emigrated, when they went to America, they all came back. And there was, you know, like a great-great-grandfather who was sent for penal servitude for starting a tithe rebellion. So he actually made it back from Australia as well. So there's like a history on one side.
Okay.
But I also didn't know my maternal grandmother either. So, and she was from Enniscorthy.
Oh.
But I'm really interested in the fact that their origin story is Huguenot refugee. And it's really interesting how that refugee story is in West Wales as well. There's a lot of Huguenots settled in, so it's mainly Swansea, but I'm not sure whether there's any connections with Pembrokeshire as well. But yeah, so they also settled in Wexford. Yeah, so I just find that really interesting, and sort of migrations and
yeah, thanks, Claire. It's interesting because, you know, the lady I shared, Patricia from the nursing home project.
Yeah.
And Patricia was born in England to parents, Irish parents. Both of them were from Ballyhaunis and Mayo. And I remember having a conversation with her, and it stuck with me, and I think it will stick with me forever. She said to me that inside her house over in England, she was Irish. And outside of that house, she was English. But when she came over to Ireland to her grandparents, she was English. And she had that conflict between finding, self-identifying what she was, where she connected to, because she had all the customs and traditions and the songs and the music from her parents from Ballyhaunis. And outside of that, in school with the wider community, they didn't understand why she was having, you know, cabbage and potatoes, you know, for dinner, or, you know, or why, you know, they were going to Irish dancing as opposed to the ballet. And they didn't understand that. And some of the words that I've collected from her that she didn't even realize were, you know, she would be speaking to me, and that whole idea of language is narrative. She'd be speaking to me, and she'd mention words, she'd use words in her everyday conversation that were from her mum and dad, that the children in school hadn't a clue what she was talking about, you know. And even simple things like she used the word the press. You know, I use the word the press for, you know, the press, you put your bread in the press, you know, but that wouldn't, you know, that wasn't something that, you know, was recognized over there. There was lots of things that came up, but that stuck with me, and I suppose Paddy as well, that whole emigration and that power of the song that his father sang at that time in the barn dance.
Yeah, on that note, Rachel, because I was feeling really homesick, because I live in Pembrokeshire currently, and I was really homesick, especially after the pandemic, like, because I couldn't get home during the pandemic, and I went home for a big stretch in the summer. But I've started learning a song that my dad used to sing. And actually there's a verse I couldn't even sing, so it was so moving. I don't know if you know Sleep Gallion Braes.
Yes.
And there's one verse, and I actually couldn't get through that verse because it just was moving me so much. But it's just that lovely, it's an immediate connection to home, to your family lineage, and that, you know, connects right back to that grandmother, and you know, it's healing, very healing.
Yeah, it is. Right. It's lovely. Thanks, Claire.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
8:05.
Yeah, I think yes, we probably better. I mean, I know we could probably talk.
Yeah, there's so much. There's Seamus. Yes, Seamus.
Yes, go ahead, Jane.
We ask you to unmute yourself there.
Yeah, just a quick story before we finish up. Funny story. Talking about people being homesick and feeling for home. When I came to England 36 years ago now, I lived in London for a year, and then we moved out. We bought a house out here in Essex. But the first, when we were out looking at the houses out here, we came across down in Tilbury, which is about 3 miles from here, down in Tilbury Dock. There's an Irish Association social club. So we were out looking one Sunday afternoon, and I said to Marion, I said, "Oh, we'll call into the Irish club and see, you know, is there a big Irish community here and what have you?" we went in, and inside of the door there was a little office, and there was a man in the office, and he's checking people's membership cards and what have you. And of course I said to him, look, we're not members, we're just looking to buy a house in the area, and we were wondering what the club was. Oh, come on in, he said. What part of Ireland are you from? I said, Wexford. Oh God, he said, so am I. And he told me his name was Jack Doyle, and he was from Kilmore Quay. So Jack at that time was about 85 years of age. And as it happens, the secretary of the Irish Club at the time was a man called Paddy Bulger, who was from Killane. But anyway, I got to know Jack over the years. God be good to him now, he's a long time gone, but I got to know Jack well over the years. And I was having a drink with him in the club one night, and I was asking him about Wexford, and his mother and father were both from Kilmore. And I said, do you go over often, Jack? Now, as I said, he was about 85 years of age. And I said, do you go over to Ireland often? He said, I've never been in Ireland in my life. So he claimed to be a Wexford man from Kilmore. He'd never actually been to Ireland. He was born in Essex, and he had a family, and all his family had been to Wexford. So Jack had never actually been there. But the funny thing was, Jack had a kind of a Wexford accent, and it was from listening to Paddy Bulger and the other lads that he knocked around with all the time. I thought it was a great story, you know.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Wow, you couldn't write it. It's fascinating.
Yeah, no, I mean, just my grandfather was from Carlow, and my uncle he spoke with a bit of an Irish accent, but had never lived in Ireland, but had picked it up in the home. And yeah, I just wanted to say that I knew the song Boolavogue. Boolavogue was yeah, a part of my heritage as well. And
Great.
yeah. Anyway, so I digress, but I think we had better draw it to a close. But I have a couple of announcements. Unfortunately, I think Muller has just left. So this part of the project, it has sort of concludes here, but we are on the next leg of the journey, and we have a bit of a break. But I sort of get a sense, we were hoping, we had a beautiful performance from Éire and Killane tonight, and we were hoping to hear Rachel, but we did hear Ellen and Arun in the last session. I feel like there's a need now for us to actually get to sing. And so we're planning to hold what I hope will be a very special event. In the date at the moment is the 9th of February, which we will confirm soon, but that's a date for your diaries. And what we're hoping is that we will be, well, Rachel and John will be at the Story House in Owlet, and people in Wexford will be invited to join there, and other people can join online. And the hope is that we can share songs and talk about the songs that call you back home. And I hope that will be a really lovely night of song and story and conversation. And then for people in Pembrokeshire, Rachel will actually, and John are coming. SPAN have an a cappella voice festival that takes place at the beginning of March, and Rachel will be actually teaching, leading a workshop as part of that festival on the 4th of March. So people in Pembrokeshire, if you want to come to that, that would be brilliant. And then on the 12th of March, Mollera, who was on the call here, she actually leads a choir, Cor Pawb, which means everyone's choir. And they have been learning the hymn Pererin, and she is. We're going to be in Wexford that weekend, and on the Sunday morning she'll be teaching the hymn, the Welsh hymn, Pererin Oiv. So it would be lovely if people in Wexford wanted to join us for that. But yes, I think, yeah. So there is more to come. I would like, actually, I will just as Owen had put it in the chat there, I will just return us to the map, if I can find it. So we do have our online map. I'm hoping that you can see it now. All the talks that have been part of this series are actually on the map, and people's recordings that have been shared so far are also there. I would encourage you to post a recording if you would like, of Pererin Oiv, or another song that calls you home. And there are instructions on the map for how to do it. I won't go through that now because that will take too long. But do remember that that's an option. I hope you'll be brave enough to do it. And also, if you know someone who you think might like to, that would be great too. I'm wondering whether to finish with a song. So it's been a very Irish, Wexford focused evening, obviously, and a really incredibly rich presentation. But I wonder whether it would be okay just to bring us back to Wales, because tomorrow we will be celebrating, or in some parts of Wales they do celebrate the new year. And I do have a recording of a friend, Hedydd Hughes, who is from the Gwaun Valley, singing a song that they would sing at New Year, which is quite short. And I might just play that.
Mae dydd Calan wedi gwawrio, dydd drahynod yw I gofio, dydd I roddi, dydd I dderbyn, yw y trydydd dydd ar ddeg o'r flwyddyn. Rowch yn hael I rai gwael, rowch yn hael I rai gwael, rai sy'n ffyddlon I roi roddio.
Okay.
I love that air.
That's fantastic.
I'm going to play that again now. I'll have a song with that air now. That's a gorgeous air, isn't it? It's real.
Yeah, so that's it was quite a good one to share, actually, because
Really good.
there was something in the chat there about Welsh traditions as well, and that song, the air is the song is a Mochyn D. People might know it. So basically, it was other different lyrics to another air, and it's the song there was about the Killane tradition that the children would go from door to door at New Year collecting Killane, New Year sort of tokens, money or sweets, basically. And it's Rowch yn hael I rai gwael is give generously to the poor, basically, or to those who are not well off. So thank you.
Do you pronounce that Killane, is it?
Killane, yeah. I'll put that in there.
It's a lovely tradition, yeah.
So yes, so just sort of saying yes, that there is that folklore and tradition in Welsh culture too, and we are collecting it and we are passing it on.
Great.
Felly, iawn. Thank you so much, Rachel and John.
Thank you all for listening. And
thank you everyone for joining this call. Big heart from Erin and Killane. I will send information shortly about what the next stage will be, but I hope you will join us again. Have a look at the map and see what's there already. And yeah, diolch yn fawr, gore mea gif.
Rowan, just to mention that Jack and Angela have sent us on a wonderful recording, and that I'll upload tomorrow morning, and you're in for a real treat.
Beautiful.
Real treat.
Yeah, and I can also, when I email the recording out, I could share links perhaps to some of the things you've shared tonight as well. That would be
I think, absolutely. Absolutely. Great.
Okay.
Anybody who wants any of those links to watch the full pieces, just get in touch through Rowan, and I'm happy, and John's happy for our details to be passed on. So it's about sharing it all and keeping it going. Yeah. So
actually, sorry, Rachel, do you mind if I asked you something quickly just before we go? I've managed to learn the first verse of Al Nornaroon ages ago, but I've never been able to find the words in a way that, I don't know, I can't seem to find the second verse. Although you did 3 verses as well, didn't you?
What I do is, Claire, if you if you pop an email to Rowan or Rowan you for details and put in contact with me, I'll give you the full video of the one that we've pinned on to the map. Was a little part of a project that we did on the whole song in a local context, and the lyrics come up on screen for you to sing along, and then I'll include the lyric sheets and send them on to you, with the translation.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, thank you so much.
You can sing along with us from the comfort of your own home.
Fantastic.
And sure, then we could meet on Zoom and sing it together.
Yeah.
Michael,
Michael. Yeah. In that vein, I don't think Gavin's on the call anymore, but Gavin Byrne has a version of it in Irish, and I think he sent it to me. I'm just starting to look for it.
Yeah.
Because I sang the English version once at a session, and he, I don't know, we got into a discussion about it, as I recall, but you might be able to get something from him as well.
Yeah.
So.
Great. Okay. The more the merrier. The more people you listen to, and then you make the song your own.
Exactly.
You know, we look forward to hearing that at future sessions. Maybe you'll come along on the 9th of October then, through Zoom to that, and sing Ellen in her in. We'd love that.
Yeah, that would be great.
No pressure.
Yeah, looking forward to hearing people's voices.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I just don't want to leave, but yes, I think we should say Nostar, good night. O'i chamaith.
Yeah,
that's right.
Thank you so much.
Well, could you please let in the chat a link to the map you showed us?
Yeah.
Oh, it seems to be very interesting.
Yeah, Rowan, I have Benoit's email. I'll pop him the email this evening.
By email, okay,
Yeah,
that's
I'll
right.
send it to you this evening.
Thanks,
and I'll
Rachel.
CC Rowan in on it so that Rowan will have that connection as well. Okay.
Many thanks in advance.
Thank you, Benoit. Thank you for joining us.
I have just put it in the chat as well if you want to. Yeah.
Great. Great. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Good to see you.
It was great to join you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Tommy.
Good night, Ed.
Good night.
Thanks, Jack and Angela.
Thanks, Jack.
Thanks a lot. Merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Bye-bye. Au revoir.
Thanks, Brian.